The same idea of sacrifice. When you're sacrificing something, one of you out there might be like, I can easily sacrifice going to this one event or eating this or that or doing that. It's not a big deal. That's just so easy for me. But I assure you, there's other areas in your life that are not as easy to sacrifice that somebody else finds easy, or vice versa, right? So what I'm wanting you to think is realize that we got to stop playing this comparison game and trying to figure out who's the better leader. Welcome to the It Matters podcast. I'm your host, Walter Perez, and let's dive in as we help you grow your mindset and elevate your leadership. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the It Matters podcast. Thanks for joining me in another episode. Really appreciate you spending time with me. We're gonna hang out and we're just gonna try to get better. We're trying to lead well. We're trying to improve and grow and mature. And that's what this podcast is all about. And, you know, if you've joined me on the last number of episodes, specifically the last one, you know, we were talking about running on fuel or fumes. And I am definitely in the season where I'm adjusting and pivoting and recalibrating so I can stay on the side of being fueled, because life happens. Life happens on many different levels, and you feel it. And actually, my last episode, you probably heard it in my voice, where I was a little bit under the weather and there's a lot going on, but we got through it and here we are. And so I wanted to bring you another episode. There's something that I've been thinking about for a little bit that I've seen a pattern come up over and over and over in other people's life, and specifically mine. Like I have seen it over the years of leadership, where it's just this common theme. And that is this idea of serving. Now, by definition, many great people have defined leadership to be about serving, to be that you can't take serving out of leadership and expect to have leadership. Like servant leadership, like serving is part of leadership. It is leadership. And I wanted to chat a little bit about that because I want to kind of go in a little bit deeper of what that really looks like and what that means for me, what I've seen it in the culture and other people and other leaders, why you cannot separate the two. But when you go deeper into the word serving, what I have come to learn and I found out is that when you serve, you're sacrificing. So when you serve somebody, when you're giving of yourself to somebody, if you want to add value to somebody, if you want to invest in another person, if you want to give of your time, of resources, of your talents, wisdom, all of it, you're going to end up serving them and sacrificing at the same time. So this is what I'm trying to tell you. I've come to see that there's a tension that gets created when we become leaders that serve. Now, let me say this. You could potentially make it all about you. You can make it about self-serving, and you can be like, well, I put my needs above anybody else's needs, and it's all about me. It's all about how I control the situation, how I think about it. And potentially you could still be leading. Yeah, we can call it that, but you're not going to be leading well. This is the thing about what we've talked about over and over and over. Like leadership can be good or bad. Like you can lead and be horrible at it. You could be creating influence and it could be negative influence, and not could be great influence, not positive influence. You could be, having a following, but they could be miserable. And potentially I would argue that they're not going to be around for very long. So we want to continue this journey wherever we're at. We want to be able to lead well, and we want to be able to add value and create this pure leadership, the purity of leadership, where we serve, add value, we take care of people, we care for them, we bring them along, we help them, we resource them. And one way we do that is by serving them. And serving, we have to then think about them. And so this tension thing that I'm talking about is that when you say yes to something, you're going to automatically say no to something else. I want you to pause for a moment and think, because I sit back here and I think, man, how many times have I said yes to something and that automatically, maybe immediately tells me that I said no to something, or it reveals itself a little bit later where I realize, oh, this other opportunity that I could have engaged in or I could have done, I can't because I'm committed over here. Now you could say, well, then just go do that if you really want to do. Well, as the leaders, we got to really check ourselves and we got to say, okay, well, do we want to be leaders of integrity, of character, one that people trust, that they can predict that you're a good person, a good leader, that they know that you have, great intentions and you're looking out for the interest of others. So if you're going to be an honest leader, you got to be consistent in that, right? And so in that, life happens and you're going to have to say no to things. And just when I think that, oh, maybe it doesn't always work like that, I gotta tell you, over the last 20 plus years, like, I continue to see it, that there's always something that I'm saying no to. And again, it doesn't always show right away, but it does reveal to me at some point through family or whatever. And so you're going to be saying yes to something, but you're going to say no to something. And I want you to reflect, because maybe you're thinking, hey, Walter, like, I don't lead in a huge capacity. I don't have, giant responsibilities. Well, you do have responsibilities. And I think this is what I maybe want to pause for a moment and really point out. Your responsibility is unique to you. And how you carry that is unique to you. Somebody else might go, well, I could do that, with my eyes closed, with my hands tied behind my back. But that's not the point here. We all are human beings. We're all people that have different challenges, different struggles, different wins, different strengths, different weaknesses. We all lead a little bit different. And the idea here is that we want to apply the principle to our arena of leadership, to where we lead. And so when we lead, I might carry that a little bit different than you, but it doesn't mean that it's not heavy. Or, it doesn't mean that it's not a challenge for me. The same idea of serving. Serving can look very different with every person involved and every leader executing it, but serving can hit us different. It could mean a bigger deal for one leader when the other person would be like, oh, that was actually pretty easy, very simple. The same idea of sacrifice. When you're sacrificing something, one of you out there might be like, I can easily sacrifice going to this one event or eating this or that or doing that. It's not a big deal. That's just so easy for me. But I assure you, there's other areas in your life that are not as easy to sacrifice that somebody else finds easy, or vice versa, right? So what I'm wanting you to think is realize that we got to stop playing this comparison game and trying to figure out who's the better leader. Who's doing it better, all that. Yeah, there might be a little bit of room of that where there's some healthy competition and we learn from others and we go, well, I don't want to do it that way because I've learned that doesn't work well long term, or it won't work for me. We can do that healthy growth, and we need to stretch ourselves. We've talked about that before. We need to work on ourselves, and that takes learning from others and making sure we're learning from their mistakes and we're learning from their wins as well. But the idea here is, are we realizing and having a self-assessment of where we're at with our serving and with our sacrifice? Do we realize that, hey, if we're going to be in this leadership journey, this leadership game, if we want to call it, this leadership lifestyle, that there is going to be sacrifice, there is going to be things that you're going to say yes to, and then in return, you're going to say no to. And one thing that I've learned is that it's never going to come to an end. Even this idea, there's a quote out there that I've heard many times, play now, pay later, pay now, and play later. And as much as I appreciate that quote, and I to an extent agree with it, that if you do more paying now and doing the hard things and the right things now, maybe you'll have a little bit of time to play. You have an ability to not sacrifice as much later. That could be true, but what I want to tell you is that there's always going to be a price to pay. It'll just look different in the season you're in, however old you are, in the position that you're in. It's always going to look a little different. So all that to say, don't be afraid to sacrifice. Don't be afraid to pay the price. Don't be afraid to serve because it feels like it's costing you something. It's always going to cost you something, but it doesn't have to be a bad thing. So let's kind of work through a bit of a list, maybe things that I've learned. how many times have some of you, and I know for me it's been very real, I'll commit to an event of some sort that I'm excited about, or maybe I wasn't super excited, but I got invited and I think it'll be good, and it's not going to be a waste of my time, but I commit to it because it's going to serve some people well. Maybe I'm speaking at it. Maybe I'm going to hang out with some leaders, a group of people. Maybe I'm just kind of attending to help out the event. And uh, after I commit to it, after I buy my ticket, after I bought my flights, after I've said yes, something else comes up on the same weekend that is very important to me that I would have really wanted to go to, but now I can't. And now I'm missing out. So we feel like we're missing out, but the reality is that it's just not the right season. It's not the right time. And we can feel the weight of that sacrifice going, well, I really wish I could have made that work, but I committed. I'm a man, I'm a leader, a person of my word, and I'm going to go to this. And you know what's funny, or what's interesting at least, it always turns out all right. How many times have you've committed to something to help a person out, whether that's moving, whether that's helping a buddy finish a project up or something, and it took longer than you thought it was going to take, or it cost you some money. Maybe something happened along the way where your car broke down, and if you wouldn't have been in that situation, maybe it wouldn't have broken down. Maybe you wouldn't have got a flat tire. Maybe you wouldn't have had to spend that money that you potentially didn't have or were prepared to spend. On and on and on. There's examples like where we end up sacrificing, and you end up potentially getting mad or regretting it and going like, what in the world? Why every time I'm serving in some capacity or adding value, there's a price to pay. And volunteer work. How many times have you committed to volunteering somewhere and then you had to say no to something else where now you can't attend this other thing that you were going to get invited to? What about maybe on the basis of like I volunteered or I helped somebody else, or I'm working on a project, I'm adding value, I'm working with people, and you're now sacrificing time with your family. Maybe you're sacrificing some personal time that you wanted to get in. The equation, the circumstances change and they look all different. But I just want you to think about you. Like, when have you reflected on these things? When have you reflected and realized, okay, yeah, actually, that does happen. Actually, it does happen when I say yes to somebody through serving and leading and sacrificing, that I do end up sacrificing something on this end where I've had to say no to it, or I automatically just had to ignore it because I'm already committed. I want you to think about that because I foresee that in every leader's life that there's always something. I'm committed to creating podcasts, weekly episodes. I made that commitment over a year and a half ago, but it's come at a sacrifice. It's come at a sacrifice of my time, of sometimes at an inconvenient time and on a day that I don't want to do it at, or I'm not feeling well, like I'm tired. Maybe I'm sacrificing a little bit of rest, whatever it is. And I'm not saying this because we need to complain and we need to create this culture of like, feel sorry for me, this is so bad, that you should acknowledge that if I'm doing something good, that I'm doing this for you. That's not at all. That's not even the heart of serving. That's not the heart of leadership. Which brings me to a point here that I want to make sure that we're aware of. The idea here is that we do not ever want to live in regret. We don't want to live in a pain that says, I'm angry and I'm mad that I have to sacrifice. I want you to step into it with this heart of gratitude and realize that I get to, not I have to. I get to. I get to attend this event. I get to do this business. I get to hang out with people. I get to speak into their life. Because when we live in regret and pain, we don't live in the present. You're having opportunities every day. I don't know how you feel. I want to step into every room, into every opportunity, realizing that that's how it's supposed to be, and that this moment deserves my full attention. And I don't want to be thinking about the what ifs, or maybe that other thing could have been better. Sometimes things don't work out in the best way, and we learn from that. but we fail forward. Like, things are not always going to be perfect. I'm not sitting here and telling you that every choice that you're going to make to volunteer, serve as a leader, when you're sacrificing, when you're giving at yourself, when you're adding value, I'm not saying that every scenario is going to end well. Not at all. In fact, it's going to be painful at times. You're going to give of yourself and people are going to reject you. You're going to give of yourself and people are not going to appreciate you. You're going to give of yourself and people might not even notice you. People might not even acknowledge you. People might not even ever know or hear about the good thing you did. But we don't do it for the spotlight. We do it because it's the right thing to do. And as leaders, we believe that we can impact and we can influence and we can create ripple effects that we might never ever really fully understand the measure and the intensity of the impact. But we do it because we want to add value. We want to be leaders that lead well, and we're being an example. And out there, people are noticing. People know that it's not easy to lead. People sense it. People experience it. And maybe one day, somebody will come up to you and say thank you or acknowledge it. And that's great. Receive it. Be humble enough to receive that. Don't receive it with pride, but also don't expect it. Because if we're going to be in this leadership game, which all of us are, it just changes in responsibility, and depending on where we're at, how old we are, what season we're in, it changes. It's the way we lead and how it comes out. But we're all leading in some shape or form, and we're all sacrificing in one shape or form. We're all serving. I want you to just embrace it and enjoy the journey and say, I want to serve. I want to serve because that's the call of a leader. I want to serve because that's how we add value. I want to serve because it's about them and not me. It's about you and not I. And so if we do and we live life like that, man, we step into our potential, our capacities expand. We end up working in our strengths. We end up changing and impacting the world, and we end up creating other leaders that end up doing maybe even greater things than us. But it starts with understanding that we are servant leaders, and that serving will come at a price of sacrifice. And we will have to live in that tension. When we say yes to something, we are saying no to something else. And that is not a bad thing. Now, we could get wiser along the way, and we get to learn what we should say. And I've done podcasts on this, on what we should say yes to and what we should say no to. But it's not always as simple, and it's not always as clear. But as we mature as leaders, we get to learn ourselves a little bit. We're learning how to have emotional stability, emotional intelligence. We get to learn about our bodies. We get to learn when we should say no because we do need rest, and that's wise and that's healthy. We learn to have mental breaks so we don't have issues later on, and physical things and spiritual things. All of that is encompassed in this. And then at times, we're just going to have to say yes to things, even when we don't feel like it, because it's just the right thing to do. And because we know it, we sense it inside, we have that intuition, and we know that, no, this is what I'm supposed to do, and it's going to be okay. And sometimes that's life-giving, and it ends up being amazing. But as I kind of conclude here, I just want to make sure that we don't buy into this lie that leadership gets easier the longer we're in it. Technically, we can get wiser, create more knowledge, and we get to learn how to make better decisions, and we learn how to navigate. We learn from the past, but every season has its own challenges. And that's why we need to learn to tap into community. We need to learn to tap into mentorship, coaching. We need to learn to grow ourselves, because that's what makes us better leaders. And we learn to adapt along the way. And what somebody else might find super challenging and heavy one day might not feel like that for you, because you've learned. And then there's other things that you're going to have to work. There's different layers that get taken off along the way. And we're always growing. And that's the whole idea of leadership. You've heard me say that before. We're always growing. Don't get tired of growth. Certain things do get easier, but then we also learn how to adapt and handle some big, tough, challenging things along the way. But it's going to come at a price, and the price can be very rewarding too. When you said no to one thing, you then see the reward in saying yes to something else, by putting others first. And so I want to encourage you to think on that, because this is an important thing. It's not just a simple saying that leadership is about serving, that servant leadership is the thing. We have to understand what comes with it and what is entailed in it. And serving leadership is not just important, but is one of those things that is a must, and it is part of our everyday life, and it's part of every leader out there. And so let's embrace that. Let's enjoy that. Let's do that to the best of our ability. Let's not carry a grudge. Let's not regret it. Let's not think it's a pain. Yes, we're human beings. We're allowed to feel emotion. We're allowed to have bad days, of course, but let's not make it 2 days in a row. Let's not stay in that. Let's not swim in that. Let's not hang out in that. Let's grow from that. Let's talk about it. Let's grow together, learn together. And let's just be leaders that are impacting and doing our part. I really hope that this makes you think. Let me know what you think. What maybe like how have you struggled with this idea, intention of saying yes and no to things? How does that sit with you? Is sacrificing in leadership something that you notice that is just become a thing, and it is part of it? And share this with somebody. You know, I appreciate you joining and giving us the support, but there's somebody out there that needs to hear this. Let us know what you're thinking. Share it with somebody. Let's continue to work on this leadership journey that can be messy. It's not easy, and that's why this podcast exists, where we hear stories of others, and we also talk about these topics, simple, but not always easy to apply. And so I appreciate all of you. Thanks for joining me in another episode. I really do believe that today we learn something that is going to make us better, that is going to allow us to engage in our leadership style so we can do good things and we can lead well. Because, as we love to talk about, it is a win-win when the leader leads well. And that's exciting to me, that there's so many winners out there when we do the right thing. I'll catch you in the next episode. Thanks for joining me on the It Matters podcast. See you next week. Bye for now.